Oh, what a lad and what a coach and what a butcher. Yes, today I'm joined by a lad of many talents. He started off as a gun rugby player playing for the Tasman Mako, Bay of Plenty, the Crusaders and the Chiefs before becoming one of the best butchers on the planet. And he's now quickly climbing up the coaching ranks as he's about to be the head coach of the Tasman Mako for this year's Bunnings Cup. It is one of the great lads, Dan Piggy Perrin. Welcome, mate.
Cheers, Jimmy Marr. Thanks for the intro. Stoked to be here.
Mate, looking at your top, the butcher's on, you're ready to go.
The 19th Warrior, mate. How good was it to have them back in town the other week? And, proudly rocking the butcher's top there, so representing.
How good. But, mate, busy time of the year for you. Appreciate you coming on the podcast. About to get stuck into the big busy season with Tasman Mako, co-head coach this year. How's it been?
Yeah, it's been awesome, mate. The lads have slowly started rolling into town over the last couple of weeks, and we're just chipping away and reconnecting with them and setting them up for what's going to be an exciting competition. So, can't wait to hook in. Really looking forward to it.
How hard is it to sort of set up the season without most of your team here while you're preparing?
Yeah, I guess we're pretty lucky. Corny and I have both been in the Tassie set up for a few years now, so we know how it rolls. And like you said, it's tough with them not being here, but they roll in. The trainers are doing a fantastic job reconditioning them in the 2 weeks that they get with them, and it's just they know the blueprint. We roll into it and get stuck in. So it's really they've just like natural, really.
And how's your job changed from like last year or previous years where you've been involved?
Yeah, there's a little bit more off-field stuff as a co-head coach. The last couple of years it's been involved in the set piece, but getting alongside Corny and around the contracting and the planning and around setting up our team as well, which you're in too, Jimmy Marr. So just been setting all that up really. But like you said, we've been in the environment for a few years now, so we know how to set it up and looking forward to it.
And a couple of, I guess, big shoes to fill with Shane Christie and Andrew Goodman, the GOAT. I guess stepping away gives you guys an opportunity to step in there. But how do you feel around the pressure of filling those shoes?
Oh, no pressure at all. If anything, the pressure's a privilege, and they've set this club up really well. And what they've done for this union over many years, I think, has paved the way for Corny and I to come in and take the reins. And we had a real good passing of the baton with Goody at the end of last year and start of this year. And Matty's still heavily involved. There's still WhatsApp messages every day wanting to know what we're up to. So that's good, mate. He's passionate about the union and so are we, and we only want to see it succeed. So they've done marvellous things and they've set us up well to take it over. So it's you've been really privileged to work with them over the last few years too.
Clark Dermody as well. Obviously, he was the year before where it was probably a bit more specific to your role, but must have learned a little bit off him as well.
Yeah, he's a great man, Derms, and to come in and do a bit of my apprenticeship under him a couple of years ago, learned a heap off him. He's a great character and a real student of set piece play. So to be able to sit underneath him and learn the dark arts of coaching the scrum and the line out, really, really lucky for him to give up his time to help set me up as well. So still he's another one that's been a massive part of setting this union up.
Exciting times, but let's get to the players. Any players who you think are going to have a massive season? Who are you excited to see out there this year?
I'm excited to see them all. We had a good group, I think, of about 28 players playing Super Rugby. So some of those guys, it was their first year at Super Rugby, the guys at Moana and the Drua and a few guys floating around the other Kiwi Super teams, and really excited to see how they come back into the fold after the first 6 months being involved in Super Rugby. And from what I've heard and what I've seen so far, it's good things. So guys off the top of my head, Willie Havili, Levi Amu has been outstanding. Luca Inch.
Here he is.
Got to get a front row in there, mate. You know it. He'll appreciate the shout out. Max Hicks, another one.
Yeah.
Guys that been their first full year of Super Rugby, and to see what they come back and the nick they come back in and how excited they are just flows through the group. So can't wait to see them get out on the track.
And it's fair to say you do have a pretty special bond with that man, Luca Inch, father, son. A lot of guys call you, but how's that relationship formed?
Oh, it's been good, mate. I think ever since he was at Nelson College in the first 15, we started working together and just trying to help each other out. Really, I was a new coach. He was a player trying to make it, and again, just trying to get better with the scrummaging. And he was an exciting young prospect at school, and just took a little bit of nurturing, and just the work that we've done and the relationship we've formed over the few years is probably pretty evident throughout the team now that we get along all right, and a fair bit of banter. But he's a good kid, so he's got a big future.
Mate, he's a special kid, that's for sure. But yeah, that's probably it for the season. Obviously, it's going to be a massive year ahead for Tasman, and I'm looking forward to working with you personally. So, but I do want to know a little bit more about you, get to your journey. You're not just a rugby coach, like I said in the intro, you were a player first and a butcher, so plenty to chat about. But let's start at the start for you. What was your upbringing like? Where did you grow up?
Yes, I was born and bred on the east side of town in Christchurch and New Brighton and Bexley. Unfortunately, all the family home and everything was demoed after the earthquakes. But grew up over that side of town and really enjoyed it. Spent a bit of time on the west coast as well, in a wee town called Ahara, and that helped shape my teenage years, the early part of my teenage years, and it was a great place to grow up, just the freedom of the outdoors. And
when did you move over there?
Would have been the start of high school. So went straight over there into Greymouth High School and chipped away over there. Had a good core group of friends that have still got mates over there now, and really enjoyed my time growing up there with my two younger brothers. So on the dairy farm and running amok.
Were you? Shit, you would have been into it. And were you playing code over there?
Yeah, playing a bit of footy, mate. So it was you played rugby and league, so we had rugby on a Saturday and league on a Sunday. Rugby for Blaketown and league for Wairaka Hornets on the Sunday. So it was a big old weekend. You were pretty poked on a Monday getting on the bus to go to school, but loved it. Loved that part of growing up, and some real fond memories on the coast.
Did you go good at code? Either one?
I enjoyed playing both. Yeah, it was pretty much all my rugby mates played league on the Sunday, and the defensive side of league really enjoyed, and probably that helped me in my rugby career a bit later on. But really enjoyed it the time over there, and it kind of helped set me up to come back and finish my high school career. Finished my high school time career. I only had 2 years back in Christchurch, so came back over to Christchurch to finish high school at Aranui. So which was real special.
So why the move back to Christchurch?
Footy was starting to go pretty good, and something I'd sort of, started to focus on could be a opportunity once I left school to chase a dream, I guess. And like I said, it was going pretty good on the coast, and my dad had stayed in Christchurch, so there was an opportunity to come back and live with him. And it was around finding which school to go to, and there were a couple of offers to go to private boys' schools, but stayed in the public, and my whole family had gone through Aranui, so at the time they'd set up a sports academy, and a rugby academy was just about to start as well. So came back over from the coast and did my 6th and 7th form, year 12 and year 13 in their rugby academy. So that was pretty unique at the time, and probably a little bit ahead of the time actually. We you do sort of half your day of mainstream school, and the other half of the day would be rugby specific training down at QE2. So
after school every day.
Half a school class. So
True.
you might do the first 2 morning periods in mainstream school, then your last 3 would be doing rugby, and then the Tuesday would be first 3 school and last 2 rugby. So that was awesome time, and again played rugby and league through the year 12, year 13s.
Were they successful? Obviously with that program it'd be hard not to be.
The rugby side of things was new for us. A lot of the boys had played league mainly leading up to that, and we had a real good coach in John Rangahuna, who's put a lot of time and effort and was really passionate about the rugby side of things. And we made a few finals and semi-finals. I think one year we had a first 15 semi-final against Christ College on the sad day that we'd lost, and then played the league final against St Paul's on the Sunday, which we won. She was a big weekend, and you had to get over the rugby loss pretty quick, and the celebrations after the league win were there was no school on Monday. So
Were you always a hooker in rugby?
Yeah, always a hooker in rugby union, so no transformation from loose forward to never been blessed with those fast twitch fibres, Jimmy. So ever since I started playing footy, I think I was in the front row, and my dad's a front row, my brother's a front row. So and then played a bit of hooker in second row at league as well. So
Oh, hooker, true.
Yeah, mate, just a little bit.
Piggy Riddell. Is
Piggy
that where the
Riddell.
nickname came from?
No, Piggy, no real story to this one, but my old man was called Porky, so I guess it's a bit of a tradition that runs in the family, and it wasn't until I went back to Aranui where Dad had been at school, and he was actually mates with the coach Johnny I mentioned before, and he just started yelling and screaming Piggy on the training field, so it kind of stuck from there.
How did the old man get the nickname Porky?
Well, I think he was a little bit rotund in his... no, there's probably a better story than that. I don't think he was a big lad, but yeah, just stuck with me from there.
Yeah, and so then what was your pathway from school? What you sort of mentioned that your move was to give rugby a go, make it a profession. So how did you try and succeed in that post-footy or post-school?
Yeah, post-school was, I wasn't the most gifted rugby player, so to speak. I was a hard worker and a bit of a grafter, and didn't make any academies or anything. I made sort of Canterbury age grade teams, under 16s, 18s, 19s. And then coming out of school, I wasn't in the academy, so yeah, there was a bit of I guess a bit of debate with my parents around what life looked like after school. And, I wanted to have a year off, but the old man wasn't having that under his roof, so I wanted to have a year off and go to university the following year, and he sort of come back at me with, well, if you go to university, you're probably not going to be able to play rugby because you're going to have to work, and if you're working, you can't train, so you need to pay for university. And I'm like, oh, okay. And then about 2 weeks after that conversation, it might have been in term 4, my stepmother comes home with a job advert for a butcher's apprenticeship. So that's a whole nother yarn, but yeah, that's kind of how that sort of went. And I just went into a club, a Christchurch Rugby Club, and yeah, paved my way through there, got into the academy eventually, and yeah, long story short, a couple of years in the Canterbury Academy, graduated through that and made the shift to Tassie. So
true. Let's go back to the butchery. How did you? So were you keen to be a butcher, or you sort of get pushed into that?
No, I just wanted to have a year off and enjoy no school and yeah, just live life, I guess, and go to uni the year after. But Dad painted a pretty bleak picture I wouldn't be able to play rugby if I went to university. So yeah, the job advert cut out of the newspaper, and they sort of put it by my school lunchbox. Okay, yeah, that's a hint. And the old man actually knew the guy who ran the butcher's shop at Walsh's Wholesale Meats. Chris Walsh was his name, and I finished school and started my butcher's apprenticeship 2 weeks after school finished.
Sure.
So yeah, it was awesome. Yeah, to start my apprenticeship. It wasn't something I'd ever thought about. But yeah, thoroughly enjoyed my apprenticeship. It was hard yakka, as any apprenticeship is, but yeah, really enjoyed it, and kind of, I guess, went the long way around trying to get into the academy, and probably set me up well for how the rest of my rugby and business future panned out. So
you must have had some sort of interest into butchering and cutting up animals or something, or does it just pure nothing? Just
no interest whatsoever. Wasn't a hunter. Didn't.
True.
Yeah, a little bit of hunting on the coast, maybe shooting the odd possum or rabbit or things like that. But no, there was nothing. It kind of just, I had nothing else planned really after school apart from wanting to go to university, and I had my university entrance. I just didn't want to go straight away. So yeah, the fact that once I went and had my initial meeting with the at Walsh's, sort of was able to plan my future a little bit, and a year in when I made the academy, and then it all sort of started to piece together.
So when you are a butcher apprentice, what's your sort of role? What's it look like? Yes, killing the animals? Yes, what, are you just slicing them up, or?
No, you're the bottom of the bottom, mate. You get all the good jobs. So dicing meats, sitting on the same cut of meat for hours on end, and eventually you work your way up, and I guess
is the dream to be the guy who's killing them, is it?
Oh, no, you want to be boning them out.
Oh,
you know, if you show, you got to do your time. It's like any apprenticeship, you got to learn your trade, and you start at the bottom and work your way up. So you start off making mince and dicing beef and chicken and pork and all the jobs that the butchers don't want. And it was hard work. It was, you kind of had to bite your tongue at times. And 5 a.m. in the morning till sort of 3 or 4 in the afternoon, you were full noise, but really rewarding as well at the end of it. You worked hard, you got paid well for it at the time, and you got an apprenticeship at the end of it. So
Mate, how good's that? And then you spoke about your rugby, and it was the move up to Nelson Bays where that was the opportunity you were speaking about, where sort of really started to kick off for you.
Yeah, so at the time I was doing my apprenticeship. A year into that, I'd played Colts grade footy at Christchurch, and Matt Sexton was the academy manager and sort of gave me the call, and they were keen to have a look at me, and worked out really well with my apprenticeship. As I moved further up the ranks and got my butcher's certificate, I was able to become a beef boner, and you'd sort of go hard and go home, sort of get the work done and you're out of there. So some days I finished about 1:30, 2 o'clock, and then just go straight to the academy gym and train for the afternoon. And so sort of 2 or 3 years of doing that, got my apprenticeship, got through the academy, and there was quite a backlog of hookers in Christchurch at the time, some really good players, and couldn't really see a pathway there. And got a phone call from Dr. Wayne Love, who was
the Love Doctor, legend,
the Nelson Bays coach at the time, and there was an opportunity to play Division 2 for Nelson Bays, and knowing that Tasman was forming the following year in 2006, I thought, here's my opportunity, and didn't know anyone in Nelson. I'd only been there on holidays as a young fella, and sort of packed my bags and moved to the Turf Hotel for 6 months as a 20-year-old. So it was good times.
Is it the greatest place on earth?
It was the greatest place on earth at the time.
So was your Tasman contract, was that part of the deal to move up, or were you sort of just backing yourself to be good enough and impressed to make it the following year?
Yeah, I just had to go up there and back myself. It was there was an opportunity with Nelson Bays, and you could see a pathway to Tasman, and I was hearing pretty good things about what was going to happen in Tasman, and I just had to back myself and go up there and commit to it, and I did.
And how'd you find that first year playing for Nelson Bays? Obviously, Div 2, probably went all right that year. They were always sort of top four, often in the finals in that era. So what was that year like?
Yeah, it was really good. Made the final against Hawke's Bay, and to play along some club legends of Kahu Marfell, Gavin Briggs, Mark Milne it was eye-opening for a young 20-year-old coming into that environment, but I really enjoyed it, and set me up for the following year.
What were the Div 2 initiations and courties like, mate? They must have been loose. I could imagine Briggsy being a hell of an enforcer.
Yeah, the off-field was as good as the on-field, or as important as the on-field performance. So, yeah, we're pretty good at winning that game. The third half, I think they called it.
No stories?
No yarns that I can think of off the top of... the Tassie stories kind of override those ones there. So
yeah, so the following year, you do make that Tasman Mako squad. How'd you find that out?
Oh, that was all. I think Dennis Brown and Bevan Cadwallader were the coaches at the time, and early in the year I got offered a contract for that, and I guess it had kind of made the move worth it, and committed to it, and it was really exciting times. Those early years of Tassie, and there's some fairly good yarns, but it was really exciting. There was a big buzz around Nelson and Marlborough, and we run amok in the first couple of years. We probably did. Probably weren't the most professional outfit going around, but we had a lot of fun, and I guess that set the pathway up for where we are now. We probably didn't have the on-field performances, but there were definitely some stepping stones that we had to encounter in those early years, as any new union or any new business would have to do to set you up for the long run. And I think we definitely engaged with our community. We got the support of New Zealand Rugby and the New Zealand rugby community, and they really backed us. And once we got that, and the good stories, got a couple of good players, a couple of good local lads come through, and we were away.
So when you speak about being in the Div 2 to that following year, what was the biggest difference, or was that sort of what let them down? There wasn't a big difference between them.
I think we had a few new guys come into the region, and they brought a level of professionalism to the team. We had Fiki, T. Paulo, Ben Gollings, Tim Taylor from over in Europe, and they kind of set us up. I guess it was it was new, it was something exciting, and we played on that as players off the field as much as we did on it. And I guess it was always going to be tough for us in those early years to compete with the bigger unions, but we knew eventually we could get there, and took our time, and maybe we could have done things a little differently in those early years, but we learnt our lessons, and that set us up for where the club is at today.
So how did it turn around? Obviously, one of the most successful provincial unions in New Zealand at the moment. How did it all turn around from the early struggles?
It took a couple of good people to come into it and really start focusing a bit more on the rugby side of things, and come up with a brand and a DNA as to how the Mako wanted to play. And two guys that were influential that come to my mind were Kieran Kane and Leon McDonald, and they sort of came in, and their rugby nous was second to none. Kieran Kane was just a absolute scientist of the game, and had some pretty out there ideas, but wasn't afraid to try them and challenge the norm. And I think that was really good, because it was a point of difference for us. That, we were doing some things that were probably a little bit ahead of our time, and other unions weren't doing. And then having Leon's rugby IQ come in there, and his calmness, and he was really worked hard and got us working hard, and he'd come from the Crusaders as well, so he had a bit of that background and set us up well.
Mate. And on the field for you, obviously you got a lot of game time, and you got a couple of good seasons there where you were the starting two. One memory in particular that stands out is your pig crawl post Wellington, scored a try, pig crawl back to about the 22 or something. Talk me through this one.
Oh, mate, we hadn't scored a few tries, and we're coming to the back end of the season, and Andrew Goodman was our captain at the time, and I think it was last game, and everyone had to have a try. So everyone had to have a try scoring celebration.
That's right.
You had the cheeseburger, and I'd sort of jacked up with our winger Blair Cook, that if I was to score a try, he was a mad keen pig hunter. My nickname being Piggy. If I scored a try, I'd crawl back to 22, and he'd run along and stick me like a pig, and I'd sort of end up on my back, and we'd be bloody looking like idiots. But he never turned up, and I'm sitting there crawling back to the 22, and I'm the one who looked like an idiot. And it's a video. It comes out at least once a month.
The boys love it, eh? So you might be able to get Luca to do that, I reckon, this year.
Oh, mate, I was pig crawling through nightclubs all through my buddy. Someone would yell out pig crawl, and I'd have to get down and crawl through them. It was a bloody mess.
Oh, that's right. And any other games that sort of stand out for you? The big Ranfurly Shield game I remember early on against Wellington as well. Any memories from that?
There's memories. I guess as a union we haven't had too many cracks at the Ranfurly Shield, and that was one that I was fortunate enough to play in, and also unfortunately missed a tackle that led to a red card that probably cost us the game. So there's a few other things that conspired in that game against us, but that was a good memory at the Cake Tin. And obviously those first away wins, I think beating Waikato up there was a big one. Beating Auckland at home was another big sculpt. The Canterbury games were always memorable ones. There's some real fond memories of my time in the Tassie jersey.
Mate, the Shield, it wasn't your fault.
He still tackled him too high, mate. Julian Severe on a hook, he's winning that one.
Shit, it must have been a young Julian, eh? He must have been, 18, 19?
Yeah, he was real young. Yeah. He was sprightly. He's pretty quick with me.
No doubt. But so why the move to Bay of Plenty? Obviously, Tasman, legend.
Yeah, so I'd been with Tassie and been with the Crusaders for a couple of years as well, and I think started off at a wider training group and got 14 or 15 games when Flinny broke his arm. I sort of got the call up into the squad, and got a full contract for 1 year down there as a third hooker, and then it's kind of got to the end of that time, and young Quentin McDonald was coming through at Tassie as well, and he was probably in line for that Crusaders spot. So he was going to overtake me at Tassie. He was nipping at my heels there for a year or two, and really good footy player. There was an opportunity. It was back in the day when you had to be in the franchise to be able to play for the franchise. You had to play your provincial footy there, and Bay of Plenty were after a hooker, and Waikato, the Chiefs were after a hooker as well. So ended up signing a 2-year contract with the Chiefs up there, and matching that with Bay of Plenty. So made the move up there with another Tassie lad, Tristan Moran. And
Twisty, hey. Yeah, what a lad favourite, I think. Hey.
Get him on, mate. He's got some good yarns. That was good to move up there with someone that I knew. And again, it was a move where I'd never really been to Tauranga or Mount Maunganui, and just had to go up there and back myself and give it a good nudge. So.
Mate, we can't skip over your Crusaders career just like that. What was it like going into that environment? Obviously, pretty successful side, obviously forward pack with lots of All Black legends. You coming down from Tasman, I don't know how old you were. What were you, like 23-ish?
Yeah, I think I was probably 24, 25, I think, when I got my first crack down there. So, yeah, I wasn't young. I sort of matured a little bit, but no, it was nerve-wracking. It was, like you said, they were pretty successful and had won a few titles, and lucky enough that Toddy had been my coach at Tasman for a couple of years, and he was now the coach of the Crusaders. So there was some familiarity around that, and there were a few other Tassie boys down there. So that was good, but it was pretty daunting. You look up to guys like Richie McCaw, and I'd played with a few of them through age grade footy with Crocky and the Franks boys and Carter and that. So knowing those guys kind of helped, but it was definitely a little bit daunting with the success that they had, and just going in there trying to be yourself. I think learned a heap, but it was an awesome environment, awesome culture, I guess, for me to walk into and be a part of and learn from. So took a lot out of it.
Mate, what was the biggest difference going from Tassie, which in the early days, was pretty loose, to going into that environment with, I from the outside looking in, it looked like a pretty serious, especially that forward pack. You got the likes of Brad Thorne, like say Richie McCaw, these guys who seem pretty straight and narrow. What was it actually like?
Oh, I opened my eyes to professionalism, that's for sure, because Tassie was new and we were professionals, but we probably weren't in some regards. And to go down there and just see how they operate and set up themselves for the week, and to be able to perform on a Saturday was phenomenal. Like Brad Thorne, what a machine, mate. Had everything, I's dotted, T's crossed, and did everything he needed to do to set himself up to play well on a Saturday. And the ultimate professional, and guys like the Frankses and Richie and that as well. So being able to see them and what they did, for me, being new to that environment, kind of helped me set me up for the rest of my career as well. So really lucky, but learned heaps.
And when you got a crack on the field for the Crusaders, how were you feeling?
Oh, you just had to go out there and back yourself and trust what you know, and it was pretty simple. The messaging that was given to you, just nail your role, and as a hooker it was pretty easy. So throw your line out right, hit Whitelock, hit Thorne, and that was about it. Got lucky enough to play a couple of tours to South Africa and a couple of semi-finals against the Bulls at Soweto, and another one the next year in the Bulls at Loftus Versfeld. So those are memories that'll stick with me for a long time, and really lucky to be able to get those chances.
Did you win those?
No, we lost both of them.
True.
Yeah, lost both of them.
Bulls were always powerhouse back then, over there.
Mornay Stain was,
just Spies and all those
everything,
boys.
mate. So in the high veld as well, at altitude it was tough, and I think how it had worked out both years, we'd just done our tour, then have to come back for 2 weeks and go all the way back for a semi-final. So there's a lot of sleeping pools.
How did you find the hive out? Because you're extremely loud breather. I'm not sure if you've got breathing troubles or not, but how did you find breathing up in altitude?
Hang on. You've thrown me now, mate. No, it was one of those things that just wasn't talked about. It was there, but if we didn't talk about it, it wasn't a thing. So,
true.
Just did it. We didn't focus on it. It wasn't going to become an excuse for us. So, wasn't really spoken about much, to be fair, not until we got back. So, and not until you sort of think about it. We were fairly buggered by those back into those semi-final games. Just the nature of how our tour had been, and having to come home and go back again was fairly tough. So.
That's interesting. I always thought teams would sort of prepare for handling that stuff. But if you were going there now, would you talk about it, or would you make a plan around it? Or
you're aware of it, but I don't think it influences what you do too much. You still go out there to play footy and play the style of footy that you need to play to win the game. So I don't think it becomes a part of your tactics, or it didn't at that time anyway. Yeah.
So then you left the Crusaders because Quinton McDonald was coming through the ranks.
Yep.
Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. Yep.
And then you got the opportunity at the Chiefs, move up to the Bay of Plenty. What was it like moving up there? Yeah, and you're living with Twisty, obviously.
Living with Twisty had its moments. We had a lot of fun, but again, got to play with some awesome players up at the Bay and at the Chiefs as well. Liam Messam, Stephen Donald at the Chiefs, and Bay of Plenty. We had Colin Burke, Tanara Latimer, Mike Delaney. So, yeah, real good group of lads in both teams again, and really enjoyed my time up there, and loved the differences in the culture. And Bay of Plenty was similar to the Tassie. We've a lot of good players. Probably could have been a little bit more professional on the field with how we set ourselves up to play as athletes. But, it's a good times.
And was it just you and Twisty living together?
Myself and Twisty and Sam Kane actually had come down. A young Sam Kane had been put in with us.
Hell of an introduction for the future All Black captain to be living with you two crook roosters.
Young country lad from Reparoa coming in with a couple of front rowers from Nelson and Marlborough. So, we had a good time in that flat. It would have been a bit of an eye opener for him, but we enjoyed it.
Mate, what was Twisty like to live with?
No, he was good, mate. He's awesome character and a lot of fun. Pretty intense as well, real deep thinker of the game and life. But we had a lot of fun together, and they're moments that I look back on and they were good memories. So.
And were you moving back and forward from Hamilton to Bay of Plenty? Did you do that a couple of times?
Yeah, did that a couple of times, and my wife and partner at the time, Nikki, she was back in Nelson as well. She was a school teacher, so there was a bit of commuting. It wasn't a cheap flight out of Tauranga to Nelson that one. So. There was a fair bit going on, and the Chiefs didn't see a lot of game time. There's Hick Elliott and Alan DeMelmuch there at the time, so they were the two gun hookers up there. But enjoyed my time up there.
2 years long distance.
2 years long distance. Nikki was coming up a lot as well, so it's just what you had to do in those times. She had a pretty good job at the local high school.
So who were you living with in Hamilton?
Oh, Ben May.
You're kidding, mate. All the lads.
That was good, mate. Oh, we had some ideas in that place. We had the dog Swag, and he pretty much got the run of the flat. Phil Burley in there as well.
Oh, true.
So there was a good group of us, but Bam and I sort of stuck tight as another Nelson lad, and crazy.
Mate, all the Waterlad listeners will know a fair bit about Ben May already from his episode. But mate, what was it like living with him? Was he like that all the time?
Yeah, no, he's a good lad. Yeah, absolute lad. And we just worked hard, played hard, and had a lot of fun together. And if we weren't out on some mischievous duck hunting, bloody duck shooting competition, or boosting back over to Mount Maunganui to get sushi on our days off, or we even tried to live on a budget for some point, just eating spaghetti bolognese 5 days a week. And
what was that all about?
Oh, mate, I don't know what we were trying to do. We didn't achieve it, mate. He's got a metabolism like a bloody racehorse, so he could get away with it, and I just kept blowing out. So I don't know if he was stitching me up or what.
Was that something you always struggled with through your career, was keeping your weight down or your skin folds down?
How could you tell, Jim?
Oh, I couldn't, mate.
No, it was funny you say that. How'd you know? It was a bit of a battle, or wasn't naturally gifted with a fast metabolism, but the 500 cals at 5 a.m. at the Chiefs with Phil Healy and Wally Rifle wasn't nicer.
Was that for having skin folds too high?
Too high, their skin folds.
True.
And,
the spaghetti diet got you.
Yeah, the carbs, mate. Carbs are no good. 500 cals at 5 a.m. And I think even one year I came back and got an award for being the biggest loser. So,
true. What lost the most weight or skin folds?
Skin folds, so it's claim to fame.
But you mentioned Hicker and Ella DeMelmuch were ahead of you as hooker. So did you get much of an opportunity on the field at the Chiefs?
Nah, bugger all, mate. So they were pretty highly. I think both All Blacks at the time as well. So I was just chipping away in the background and doing what I needed to do to set the team up. And it was an interesting experience at the Chiefs after being with the Crusaders and being in that environment and the culture and what had driven that to going up there. And Ian Foster was our coach at the time, and Scott McLeod, so the current All Black coaches, and they were kind of in their early days as well as coaches. Really good, really intelligent rugby brains, and but we just didn't quite have that mix of the culture side of things right up there at the time. And it wasn't until Rennie came in the year after, and I'd finished by then, retired, where they brought in the Chiefs Mana, and that kind of flicked the switch for them because they had all the talent. Man, they had some talent up there, but as soon as they got that off-field stuff right, and the Chiefs mana came in, they were away. So it was interesting, really eye opening after being down in Christchurch to going to Hamilton and seeing what they were running up there.
Now, how frustrating is it being in that non-23 for pretty much a couple of years? How frustrated did you get?
Oh, you push hard, mate, but I don't think you get frustrated. You do what you can do and you push your case as hard as you can, but essentially the team's bigger than you, and you do your best to set those guys up. And after a while, I knew my place in the team, and that was my role. So to provide good banter and train hard and set the guys up for a sad day. So.
Right, and you nailed it. Love that. And you mentioned your retirement. So how did that come about?
Just through shoulder surgery. Needed to get that tidied up. I was coming off contract with the Bay, and as I said before, Nicky was at home back in Nelson, and Bay Plenty sort of said, get your shoulder sorted, come back up through club rugby, and we'll look at signing you there. I think I was about 32 at the time, so it was time to look at life after rugby, and that's sort of how it came about. So I thought I probably could have had another year or two in me, but I was pretty content with what I'd done in my professional career, and I chased the dream that I was after, and knew that I had to get into something else. So.
And what was that? Did you have a plan post it, or like to walk away from rugby when you've still got some left is pretty hard unless you sort of have something in place? Did you have something in place?
No, nothing really in place. We had a house and stuff back in Nelson, so I knew I had to come back and find something, and always going off to do something for myself was sort of the plan. What that wasn't too sure, but I had a career business.
Did you?
For a while, mate.
Wouldn't have picked that.
Mate, that was tard yakka. I just about got kicked. Well, I probably should have been kicked out of the front row club because I was under 100 kilos for the first time since I was about 12, I reckon. My dad stopped talking to me, but there was a lot of competition for the tickets and that time, and online shopping hadn't really kicked off yet, so it was hard yakka, and I enjoyed it, but it probably just wasn't the lifestyle that I was looking for at the time after finishing.
Too much exercise.
Too much exercise, mate. That might have helped me with my rugby, actually. I should have tried it earlier. But, I managed to sell that, and then worked in a bit of civil construction for a little bit for the local sponsor of the club that I was helping play a coach for, and that was going pretty good. I had a pretty good role out there, been able to come, start coaching, and they were backing me and helping in that civil construction area was good. Did that for about two years. Enjoyed my time there, but we still wanted to do something for ourselves and work for ourselves. And I remember just jumping. Am I allowed to jump into the Mad Butcher stuff now?
100%,
get straight into that. So I'd kind of met Sir Peter at a sponsors sort of function. We were setting up the opening of the Claudelands Arena at Waikato, and jokingly after the end of the sausage sizzle, I just said, I'll open up a Mad Butcher when I finish playing footy. And there'd been no butcher in Nelson no standalone, more decent butcher. There was only sort of one out in Richmond, and we kind of just started thinking, is that something we could get into? And got the backing of our family, and fired off an email to the head office in Auckland, and they came back straight away asking if we could get to Auckland next week. So,
true.
She moved. Things progressed pretty quickly with that.
And what did you do up in Auckland? Like, what did you have to do?
Yeah, to be a butcher to buy into the franchise.
Yeah.
Tick. Yeah, thanks, Mum and Dad, for that one. Shot up there, had a 3 or 4 hour meeting up at the head office up there with Michael Morton and Dan Adams. Sir Peter was out of the business by that stage, but his son-in-law's now running it. He's a top rooster. So had a meeting with them, drive around Auckland, ran a couple of the Mad Butchers, got back to head office. They said, find a site in Nelson and it's yours. So from that meeting till opening, took us about 12, 13 months to find a site, get it prepared. It was we ended up buying the old Stoke Rugby Club and set that up as a butcher shop. So,
right. And how hard was that to set up? Like, obviously you hadn't had much experience in running your own business or things like that. So, how'd you manage?
Yeah, I guess that being a part of a franchise was not having that business experience, but I could be a butcher, being a part of the franchise was, a real good selling point for us rather than just going off by ourselves.
Yeah.
And they had all the knowledge and know how they sort of had processes in place to set up the shop, but it was still a massive learning curve going into business. And like Michael Morton he was a massive help to us and still is a massive help to how we run the shop now. And I think we opened in 2014, so we've had it 8 years now. We just had our first baby was born sort of 3 months before the store opening, so it was mad. It was crazy time. The second biggest opening in franchise history, and we were just probably 70, 80 hour weeks there for the first sort of 2.5 years. It was
2.5 years of 70 hours weeks
crazy, mate.
with a newborn.
It was tough. I don't know what we were thinking at the time, but massive learning curve, and you have the highs of your opening, the first couple of months, and then the bills start rolling in, and you're like, holy heck, we've got to pay these on the 20th of next month, and sort of you have your highs of your opening, and we pumped up the opening, so we knew it was going to be big, but you sort of come down and find your place in the market, and that took a wee while for us to find that, so it was a little bit nervous times there for about 6 or 7 months in.
Sure.
Things start going backwards after your early excitement, and then you find your place in your market and start building again from there. But it was really nervous, but really lucky to have that support we had from our head office.
How'd you build the opening up so well? Like, obviously it was a pretty big opening. What'd you do?
Oh, we had the Utes sign written, and we had billboards around town, and I think we were one of the first franchises to have social media as well. So pumping it up through that. 2 a.m. the morning of the opening, I was driving around the countryside putting in little picket signs of Mad Butcher opening today, and Leachy, he rang me at about 2:30 to make sure I was out there doing it. And, g'day boy, how you getting on? I'll see you at 7 a.m.
So he came down.
He was flying in for the opening, causing a bloody ruckus that he does. And it was full on, man. Like those were crazy days. Like I thought rugby was tough and training and the day in, day out grind of that, but nothing compared to owning your own business and having staff and customers and bills and stuff you had to pay. So, it was massive.
Were there times where you thought, shit, what have I done here? I sort of want to get out of this, or?
There was a few squeaky times there, and we just had to dig down and work harder, and the supermarkets came at us real hard. Like that was one of the tough things, is the competition and trying to control what we could control. But every week I'd go out there on a Monday morning, put my new signs out. An hour later, the supermarket across the road would come out undercutting me. And
really,
so trying to, I guess, find our place in the market, but then find a point of difference for us that sets us apart from the supermarket was also huge. So we spent a lot of time on our quality and customer service, and having a real point of difference around our social media and bits and pieces like that. So you had to work hard for it. Like they were coming hard, and I knew we could stay in it, and we could survive, but I just had to really knuckle down, and wasn't much time. I was leaving 5 a.m. in the morning, getting home at 7, 8 o'clock at night, and as we said, we had the newborn, and she was tough.
Mate, must have been tough on Nikki as well.
Yeah, tough on Nikki because she was running the business from home as well as having a newborn too. So, we learned a lot, but we stayed tight and dug in, and we're at the other side of it now 8 years later. And it's been a tough journey, but a really rewarding one. So.
And while you're both under the pump, you decide to have another baby?
Yeah, another baby. That so we had our second as well. And that was a really scary time in life for us because Nikki, as you know, got a virus, a 1 in a million virus called Miller-Fisher syndrome while she was pregnant with our second daughter, Ruby. So it's a virus that attacks the nerves, and it started in her eyes. So I come home from work one day, and she had blurry vision. And she, had wore glasses and contacts and bits and pieces. So we just thought, we'll give it a couple of days, and started progressively getting worse, and went to the doctor and to the eye specialist. And next thing we're being told we've got to go in to see get CAT scans because they're thinking it could be tumours and all sorts of stuff. And that was a really scary time, and we were, the shop sort of played second fiddle to making sure that her health was right, and really good family support, Nelson, with her family around us. But it was, just by chance, an absolute miracle that there was a specialist in there at the time who I think she'd had a patient like this a couple of years ago over in China or Asia somewhere.
And it's a 1 in a million type thing.
Yeah, 1 in a million. It's not very common. And she just said, I think it's this, you need a full blood transfusion now. So while being 5 or 6 months pregnant, she went in for a full blood transfusion. And if she hadn't had that, she could have been in a whole world of trouble. So, it was real scary times, but got through the other side of it.
So she didn't know that this was going to work at the time. This was just a bit of a stab in the dark, just trusting this.
Yep, bit of a stab in the dark and trusting this specialist that she knew what she was talking about. And even then, it was still not guaranteed that Nikki's vision would come back or it would stop the virus eating the nerves. And I think once the virus got down to your throat, it started affecting your breathing. You were going to have to be put on a ventilator and all sorts, and things was going to look pretty tough from there. So we managed to get it quick enough, but the vision still wasn't guaranteed. It could come back in 6 days, 6 weeks, 6 months, 6 years. But I think it took a couple of months, and her vision came right. The nerves naturally repaired themselves, and she came right. And she's pretty good now. But no more babies. So,
mate. So her eyes, is it always the eyes for this virus?
Not 100% sure. I'm not sure where it can start, but I think her case has now been put in the medical journals now, and it's a point of reference for. If it comes up again, they've got a study there, a case study to go back and have a look on. So.
And how how bad was her eyesight?
I had to hold her hand to walk.
Oh, really? That bad?
Couldn't see anything. So everything was just completely blurred. So.
True. So how long was that period when she couldn't see at all and you had to be a guide dog?
By the time...
guide pig.
By the time she had Ruby, her vision was starting to come right, but she had to have Ruby under cesarean and bits and pieces, but she'd come right by then as well. So,
Far out, that's crazy. And then no after effects, so like now she's sweet.
No after effects, just,
Can't have a baby.
Can't have a baby, so, they did that, and, the business was still tracking along, and, life still had to go on, so it was get back into it.
Crazy, mate. That is a yarn. So you're obviously pretty busy with Butcher and kids, so you decided to get into coaching.
That's mad. I guess. Tough. It was always a bit of a natural progression. My old man was a coach and he was pretty decent at it, and worked for New Zealand Rugby as a coach educator as well. So, it was something that kind of naturally just happened, and there's fairly good hookers out there coaching now, and front rows make good coaches. So.
And they're all bald too, eh? All front row coaches are bald. Yourself, Jace Ryan, Chrono.
Few bald coaches. Yeah, there is, mate. There could shout. Could be something in that.
Mate, what do you reckon?
It's a secret.
Part of it. Would you ever hire a full-headed hair front row coach?
Oh, I don't know, mate. You'd be starting to ask questions, wouldn't you?
But your pathway, you started with club footy?
Yeah, sort of did. A lot of ex-players come out to coaching footy now, and that's good. I think there's a place for that, but I sort of knew I had to take the long game with it, and at that point in time with the business, I was still fully immersed into that, and there wasn't really time to coach a hell of a lot. So the club side of things was a good fit for me at the time, and that started going all right. And Chris Goodman asked me to help out with a couple of Tasman under-19 teams, and then all of a sudden I was involved in Crusader juniors and development teams and Tasman B, and kind of just it was good because I wanted to learn my trade and coaching and start on the at grassroots and work my way up, and I think it served me well. So
was it a hard to commit to that, because there's obviously at that level there's pretty little / no financial benefit from doing it, eh? So was this all part of the big picture, long-term plan?
Yeah, I guess you're giving back to the game, really. That was my sort of philosophy around it, and I knew if I worked hard and at my craft of coaching, then potentially there could be an opportunity moving forward. And it's not really until last year that up until then, I'd sort of been volunteering my time, and that's kind of what you got to do. It's no different to your butcher's apprenticeship, I guess. Do your time until you're ready to make a step into that professional game. And I was lucky enough to get that opportunity. So
now, you must have had good support from Nikki to, I guess, allow you to. I mean, you're pretty busy as it was, being a dad, a butcher, running your own business. To volunteer and give up so much time into coaching, which is obviously time consuming as well. Huge commitment from your wife.
Yeah, no, she's backed me 100%, and really grateful for the time that she allows me to go out and coach, because it is a massive commitment and making sure I have that balance. She makes sure I have that balance, but yeah, I'm really grateful to have her and her family and my family back in Christchurch, my two daughters that that are right behind me, and really grateful for their support and the time that they allow me away from them. It's tough. It's a tough gig, especially those early years. But it's paying off now, I think.
Is it what? Now he's co-head coach of Tasman Mako. And what's the dream? What's the goals for your coaching?
It was always a dream to coach where I played, Jimmy, and Tasman gave me my first opportunity. So to be able to be in the hot seat now with Corny is really exciting, something I'm really proud of, and really looking forward to my journey as a co-head coach, as well as still looking after set piece. But I think, we'd be kidding ourselves if we weren't aspirational and wanted to have a crack at Super Rugby and beyond. And obviously, first and foremost, looking after Tassie and making sure that we're successful here and the club's successful for a long period of time is my main priority. But if Super Rugby, if something was to come knocking, then you'd be silly not to look at it. So.
Well, I've noticed being on the podcast, guests I've had on, rugby players, generally their career gets a pretty big spike after coming on the podcast. They talk about their goals or what they want to achieve. It might be a Japan contract, and it does seem to happen. So if you're putting it out there that you want to be a Super Rugby coach, I'll be putting my money on that you're a Super Rugby contract next year for sure. But this will be a good way to test the theory out to see if you are a Super Rugby coach in 2023.
Let me know if you get any messages, Jim.
Yeah, well, if you do want Dan Perrin to coach you, head over to the Waterlad Instagram page and just message me and I'll pass you into the right man. But speaking of the Instagram page, we did get plenty of messages, questions and stories for the Mad Butcher, so I will go through some of these. First one, what's your favourite Twisty Moran story? Obviously a big favourite for a few Waterlad listeners.
Oh, there's a lot of stories of Twisty Moran, but one you can't beat waking up on a weekday morning to Twisty in the kitchen, nude, cooking your poached eggs on toast for breakfast, mate.
Can't beat that.
Can't beat it, mate. And it was fairly common as well, where he had to get his dose of vitamin D. That's something that's burnt in my retina forever.
Vitamin D on the D.
Yeah, that's probably not wrong.
And this was living with Sam Cane. What did a young 18-year-old Sam Cane think of Twisty cooking him poached eggs and nude for breakfast?
Yeah, Sammy Cane was a sleeper anyway. He loved to lay in, so I don't know if he got the opportunity. He knew it was probably going on and sleeping on purpose, but I knew I was getting my breakfast cooked for me. So it was good fun.
Yeah, what living with Sam Cane, what was it noticeable that he was going to have the career he has from that early stage there?
Oh, yeah, he was a great human, awesome character, and I guess the thing I was lucky enough to play with Richie and Sammy coming in, like the character and the way they conducted themselves and how they spoke was like, it was crazy. True. How identical and similar it was, and you kind of knew he was going to be something special. And I think the first time on the footy field we were involved in a teens tournament for our club Tauranga Sports. And he was just absolutely cutting guys in half. And I'm like, holy heck, this kid's backing it up.
Yeah.
And there was a little bit of a dust up and he fronts up and goes toe-to-toe with a couple of these big island boys from counties. And
True.
I'm like, yeah, this kid's not bad. And, just his character and his work ethic and his mannerisms, you knew he was going to be something special. So it was awesome. Yeah, really lucky to play alongside him as a 18, 19-year-old. It was, just to see was yeah, unreal.
Mate, that is cool to hear. Okay, next question. What's the best cut of meat for a summer barbie? This one came in a few times. People want to get the butcher's insight.
Yeah, love a Scotch fillet, mate, with a bit of marbling through it. So hot, hard and fast on a barbecue, bit of salt and pepper. 200 to 250 grams, about the right portion size for me. So that's my go-to over summer, mate. So.
Whoa, mate, the detail in that. If you went 300 grams, what happens? Is it anything change? Is that just too much?
Oh, yeah, everything in portion, mate. Yeah. Portion controls.
250's the perfect amount.
Yeah, for me, yeah. You might like a 300 grammer though.
True. Oh, yeah. So it's just individual preference. It's not going to help you.
Yeah, ask your local butcher to cut the sides for you, mate. They'll do anything.
Oh, mate, how good is that? Get to the butcher and stop these bullies, the supermarket bullies. What about the slice, the cut? What are they? Price slice? What
what
do you call it?
Cutting, undercutting.
Undercutting, that's it.
Tough, eh?
Mate, that's niggly. Okay, next one. How much are chicken wings this week?
$5.99 a kilo.
Far out, that's cheap,
That's cheap, mate. Real cheap. Plain and marinated.
So free marinade.
Yeah, well, add the marinade to the kilo price. So $5.99. Your marinade's included in the kilo price.
That wouldn't be much, so would it?
Not a hell of a lot. Chinese honey marinade on your chicken wings. Get them on the barbecue for the All Blacks tonight.
Oh, mate. Have you got any discounts for Water Lad listeners?
20%, mate. You come tell us, Jimmy, mate. Have a bit of merch on, even better.
50%.
Oh, hang on, mate. I've got to put shoes on the kids next term.
20%. Is this legit?
Legit, mate.
20% if you say Water Lad at the counter.
You listen to this podcast, you say Water Lad at the counter, we'll go 20%, mate.
And this is Mad Butchers nationwide, or?
No, settle. I'll get my bloody hands chopped
Just
off
the one at Stoke.
Just the one in Nelson.
Oh, mate, love that. So if you are listening in the Nelson region or probably in the South Island, it's worth the trip up. That's 20%. That's good stuff. Okay, next one. Can you give us your best Peter Leach impression? You gave us a little teaser there, but looked like a good one.
G'day, it's your old mate, the Mad Butcher. This week at your local Mad Butcher, chicken breast, $7.99 a kilo. That's right, $7.99 a kilo. Get up the Vodafone Warriors.
Wow, mate, I've had some impressions on this podcast before, but that is definitely the top. That beats Salisi Rassi's LeBron James, I think. That was impressive to see live in the flesh. Have you practiced that, or have you learnt that?
Oh, yeah, a lot of practice. You would have seen the Mad Dan's videos on a Saturday morning at the Mad Butcher, so I try to take the piss a little bit there and be a bit of time in there practicing for that one.
So what's the story behind those videos? Like they are pretty popular, I know, with the boys and around Nelson.
I get it. It was just a point of difference of marketing, and it was something after I might have been a bit hungover one Saturday morning, and we'll give it a crack and had some good specials to show off. And again, it's just another point of difference for us that supermarkets weren't doing, and kind of got a little bit carried away with it, and but provided good banter with the customers coming in the store and me being in the store, and Big Willie behind the camera, he gets his fair share of people wanting to know who he is, and so he was pushing it more so than what I was. Sort of just, it actually had a real good effect on the day's sales as well. So the customer count went up, the sales went up, and once you've seen the dollars coming in, you're like, I better give this another crack. Right. And it's kind of just...
It's crazy. So you actually could see a massive, a noticeable difference when you'd released one of those videos.
Yeah, no, 100% you could. So made a big difference, and just provided a bit of banter, and again, it was something different. So
true. Why don't you do one every day, or is that sort of overkill?
Yeah, it's a little bit of that overkill once you've seen it. Trying to find content, Jimmy,
Fair enough, I get you. Okay, next one. What is your best end of year do? This will be good.
Oh, the Fountain of Youth for Tassie 2008 at the Walker. Yeah, I know every bit of detail of this one. Yeah, that was one of the greats.
Yeah, so explain, what is the Fountain of Youth? This was my first year in Tasman, actually. I had no idea when they said what it was going to be, but learnt pretty quickly.
So the old Walker had a bar that you could sort of walk around, and you just leave the keg tap on, and it's not allowed to be turned off until the keg's emptied. So there's the whole team just walking in like clockwork around the bar, and you're not allowed to. You got to finish your vessel by the time you get back round to the tap again. And the tap's not allowed to be turned off. So that was a day 2 event.
Yeah.
So there was some pretty messy punters there, and that was a big old day.
Yeah, I remember the first couple and thinking, oh, this isn't too bad, and then, oh, geez, just kept going. Started getting pretty tough.
Yeah, a few unnamed players were taking a few shortcuts, trying to
Were they?
get rid of their pints before they got back to the table in suspicious ways. But she was good fun.
Mate, there's some good times, especially in those early days, like you said. Okay, next one. What's your current skin folds? This is your ex-trainer Wayne Taylor checking in tails.
Tails, thanks a lot, mate. You changed my life. You wouldn't trust a skinny butcher, Jimmy, so I couldn't tell you.
But more than when you're doing your courier run.
Yeah, more than the courier run. More than when I was playing footy. But good question, Tails, though. He was a good man. He had a massive influence on me in my early days at Tassie and changing my body and changing my mindset to be a professional athlete. So, but yeah, it's not something I'm particularly too worried about these days.
Fair enough. You're a butcher, like you say, skinny butcher. On a scale of 1 to 10, how calm are you in the coach's box?
Oh, it's been a bit of a work on, to be fair, Jimmy. I'm no Craig Bellamy, but I think it's important that you show your passion and you show it in the right way. And I guess it's more so, when we're sending down messages and the communication is probably, as long as that's calm and you're collected and it's simple messaging, that's fine. But yeah, I'm pretty passionate in the coach's box and get pretty excited. And I've had the old Apple Watch heart rate warnings during a few games. Semi-final last year, Levi Amur against Hawke's Bay turnover was that sent me through the red lining. But I think if you're not emotionally involved and passionate about it, then there's something wrong.
How often would you watch send off the alarm?
Oh, I think we had 2 last year.
Oh,
so,
true.
Yeah, but no.
Just tense moments, is it?
Yeah, just tight moments, mate. No, it's good stuff. I love it. So
mate,
that's what we're in it for.
Love that. Okay, next one. Oh, this question's from our major sponsor, Swish. Mate, you should actually get on Swish, like with Peter Leach. You two would be unreal on there. But if you could get a video shout out from any celebrity, who would it be and why?
I've got a couple, actually. My first one at the moment, current, it would have to be a rugby coach, Eddie Jones.
Oh, yeah.
He's an interesting rooster, eh? I'd love to have a wee message from him, a wee pep talk from him.
Oh, yeah, we coaches chat. Jeez, there we go. We could probably organise that.
That'd be good. But, real left field, this one, my daughters are actually right into Adele at the moment. So they walk around the house belting out Easy On Me and all sorts of tunes. And I've actually been quite enjoying sitting there after work and watching Adele on TV. So,
jeez, there he is.
Get her on the screen singing Happy Birthday.
Or
can we make that happen?
Or? I don't know about Adele, but
Father of the Year.
Mate, I wouldn't have chosen that. I wouldn't have picked you as a big Adele fan, but there you go. Oh, she's lost a lot of weight too. She might have started a courier run.
She don't need to start no courier run.
No, but what a voice she has. Can you do a Adele impression?
No, there's no impression.
No, I don't think so.
Get my daughters in here.
Okay, next time. Okay, last question. Best piece of advice you have for a Woodlad listener?
Be yourself and back yourself and be humble. You know, if you're not out there, like, you got to be yourself. Don't try to be someone that you're not.
Yeah.
You got to back yourself. It's a tough world these days. There's a lot of critics. Social media and stuff can, you can read a lot into that. But I think if you back yourself and you've got the talent and the skill set to have a crack, then by all means do it. But remember where you've come from and who's in your corner, by being humble as well. So it's a bit of advice that's been passed on to me, especially through my coaching journey. So
Jesus, mate, I say this a lot, but that was probably the best advice we've had, because you didn't just nail one thing. I think you covered all 3 things and nailed it to perfection.
Thanks,
so, mate, you're obviously a Woodlad listener, because that was prepared, planned advice. And, mate, I love that one, because so true. So many haters out there. Back yourself. Be humble. Yeah. And what's the first one?
Be yourself.
Be yourself, yeah. That's crucial. Love it, love it, love it. But, Mate, Piggy, what a journey, what a story. Really appreciate you coming on the podcast. Like you said throughout this, like nothing's really happened quickly for you. You've worked hard for everything that's come to you. So your rugby career, slow build up, but you got there in the end. Same with your hard work in the butchery, and now you're coaching. You've been grinding away for a few years now with not much reward to see you succeed and get to where you want to be at the moment. It's been pretty inspiring for a young coach coming through, and mate, really looking forward to working with you this year. Hoping we can have another good year for Tassie, and really appreciate you coming on the podcast, mate.
No worries, mate. Thanks for the invite, and likewise back at you with the podcast, mate. I'm really enjoying the stuff and the work you are doing, and it's awesome to be in a coaching team with you this year. Looking forward to it, mate.
How good. And if you are listening, remember, use the code What a Lad if you want 20% off at the Mad Butcher. Go get amongst that. Love your work.